Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good following morning. This is AMA number 54. We are firmly in year 2, 54. AMA number 54. Today is April 1, April Fool's Day, and we will talk about that a little bit. My guests today, I thought in the spirit of April Fool's Day, my guests today are YidLife Crisis, which actually means Jamie Elman and Eli Batalion, who perform as YidLife Crisis, two very, very funny guys, both originally from Montreal, and we're going to talk to them in a few minutes. But yeah, April Fool, so I thought it should have a comedic aspect. What is certainly not funny at all, is the fact that Poland today recorded its highest ever number of COVID cases. No, not April Fools. This is reality. Poland today recorded 35,000 COVID cases. But and beyond that, in a bizarre twist that sounds like April Fools, today they announced that you could register for vaccination at the age of 40. So people 40 and over could register. And then a few hours later, they said it was all a mistake, and then they took it down. And of course, they said it wasn't April Fool's, but if anything, you know, what is the ultimate April Fool's during Corona than saying you're allowed to get the vaccine and then pulling that away and taking that away? But yeah, very, very strange. But they are increasing the vaccinations. They're setting up drive-through vaccinations, which is positive. But this whole thing about over 40 and then taking it away was just a bizarre twist on April 1st. Terrible any day, but especially with the April Fool's aspect, bizarre. There also there was a resilience rating. Bloomberg does a COVID resilience ranking, which is the 53 largest economies. It's interesting that that's how we judge the world in certain ways, but that's a separate conversation. So the 53 largest countries, the largest economies in the world, they rank them how they're doing in terms of COVID, how they're doing in terms of dealing with COVID. And where does Poland, anybody listening have any guess? Where was Poland in the 53 largest economies in the world? First of all, I'm happy that Poland was part of the 53 largest economies in the world. Let me just say it that way, could be worse. But Poland, part of the 53 largest economies in the world. Woohoo, Poland. But Poland coming in at number 50 out of 53. The optimist in me says could have been a little bit worse, but yeah, 50 out of 53 is not great. But hey, part of the 53 largest economies in the world, so that's a plus. Sita, my dad is watching. Hi, Dad. Dad, I have to tell you something, since my dad is watching. Hello there, Dad. My dad, by the way, along with Saul Schachter, Randy Brenowitz, Jeffrey Rolat, and Benji Lovett, my biggest fans and most loyal viewers. Dad, I've decided that my last 40 somewhat years of non-Orthodox life and atheism have been completely wrong, and working in a Jewish institution and being around rabbis all the time and watching Shtizel has helped me see the light. And as this day forward, Dad, I am a Baal Tshuva. I am coming back to Judaism, to my religious upbringing, and I will be Orthodox, or wait for it, Dad, ultra Orthodox. There you go. Of course, this previous message, Dad, nothing to do with April Fool's Day at all. Nothing to do with April Fool's Day. Okay. Hope you're well, Dad. Hope you're feeling all right. Randy says, thanks for doing it at a reasonable time. Yes, Randy, I know. It's just the whole, very complicated with getting the whole, we're thinking of the whole world viewing here. But yeah, I appreciate you on the West Coast, Randy. I'll tell you, we're not sure exactly, I'll announce it, but I think next week is going to be also a little bit later than the normal time. So yeah, happy that it makes it easier. I know 7 a.m. is a little early to have to listen to me ranting. Chuck Fishman, hello, Mr. Fishman. April Fools, don't do it to your dad. Listen, maybe, you know, I thought about it here and there, Chuck. I don't see any payas growing out of your, I don't see any forelocks or payas growing out of your face there, Chuck, before you judge. Anyway, good to see you, Chuck. Thank you. Besides Corona and me trying to torture my dad, what else is going on? A big to-do about a New Yorker article about the way Poland is dealing with Holocaust memory. The article is generally right about a lot of things, but there was a controversial aspect when the author, who's Masha Gessen, wrote that Poland is trying to absolve itself of the guilt of of the murder of 3 million Jews during the Holocaust. And she essentially said that she didn't mean that Poland was guilty of it, but they were still trying to absolve themselves of something that they weren't necessarily guilty of. But of course, the country, absolutely everybody took it in a more sort of literal sense when saying that if Poland is trying to be not guilty of it, it means that Poland is proving that it's being guilty of it. And she used gender neutral pronouns, which I think also made it a little more complicated. So there was a huge to-do here in Poland. Again, you know, focusing on this aspect of the article and Poland being sort of offended by it. Not only Poland, you know, all around. Ronald Lauder came in with a strong statement also against this article. But I think a lot of the article made sense, to be honest. It was just this, the subtitle of the article, which you could read it, and the author has denied that this is what it meant, but you could interpret that as saying that Poland was guilty essentially for the Holocaust, which if anything gets Poles upset, and rightfully so, it's being accused of being the perpetrators of the Holocaust. As we all know, the Germans perpetrated the Holocaust. There were people all across Europe who helped the Jews and who hurt the Jews, including in Poland. Good Poles and bad Poles, but the country itself absolutely not the perpetrator of the Holocaust. Although it's very complicated, obviously, because so much of the Holocaust happened here in Poland during the occupation. So, you know, most of the narrative took place here. So the stories of heroism were here, and the stories of, you know, the stories of dastardly, terrible behavior also here. But it's April Fool's Day. Let's move beyond Corona and the Holocaust. I was thinking about it, that before we bring on our guests in a few minutes, that I was thinking of sort of my favorite comedies and things. That I was thinking of TV and movies and things like that. And if you guys have favorites, you're welcome to put it there in the comments. I was thinking of my favorite TV shows, and you know, I love three. It's always about three for me. So I thought actually with TV it was easy. My three favorite TV comedies were, or are, I guess still are, Seinfeld, Taxi, and Parks and Recreation. I think those are my three favorite comedies, favorite movies, movie comedies, Splash and Animal House, and I couldn't think of a third. And comedians was very, very easy. My three favorite comedians, Dave Chappelle, YidLife Crisis, and Yafo's own Benji Lovett. So how remarkable that today I'll have one of my three favorites, the comedic duo of Elman and Batalion. I've already had Benji Lovett, it feels like a dozen times, but maybe it was only once or twice. And we haven't yet booked Dave Chappelle, but we're working on Dave Chappelle. Blazing Saddles, Randy says, yeah, up there. Mel Brooks, absolutely. And Saul says, Schitt's Creek has become your all-time TV comedy. So I'm in the beginning of season 3 of Schitt's Creek. So but it's great. I have to say it's great, and I'm really enjoying it. But I don't know if it's not there at the Pantheon yet, but it might get there by the time I have finished it. So we'll see. The original Odd Couple. Saul, do you mean the Odd Couple the film or Odd Couple the TV show? And for extra credit, what was the date that Felix was thrown out of his house? I think it was November 13th, right? On November 13th, Felix Unger was asked to remove himself from his place of residence. this request came from his wife. With nowhere else to go, he went to the home of his childhood friend, Oscar Madison, whose wife had thrown him out a few years earlier, asking that he never return. Can two divorced men share an apartment without driving each other crazy? Dun, 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 dun. There we go. So I hope you were all impressed by my memory and remembering the beginning of The Odd Couple. As we all see, I watched way too much television as a kid. Well, making up for it now, we don't have a TV, but which I have to say, it's like being a vegetarian or something. When you always have this sort of holier than thou attitude. So I'm very self-righteous with not having a TV. Doesn't mean I don't watch plenty of stuff on TV, just not on the TV per se, on Netflix or whatever on the laptop, and actually with a projector these days. So there you go. Saul says the movie. Yeah, the movie was great with Lemmon and Matthau. You're right. Plus, how can you go wrong with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau? Walter Matthau also, of course, besides many other roles, gotta love him in Bad News Bears. Coach in Bad News Bears. And there you have it. So let me get to our guest today. Very exciting to have Jamie and Eli, Jamie Elman and Eli Batalion, who are actors and writers and composers and comedians, and they are DBA, doing business as these days. They are here at YidLife Crisis, which is a phenomenal comedy program that they've done, and they've done it in terms of videos, and have done it around the world, including in Krakow. And they're doing a lot to revive Yiddish, or perhaps make you hate Yiddish even more. That's yet to be determined. So as a real honor to be able to have Eli Batalion and Jamie Elman. Wow, well dressed. Is it Eli or Eli?
It's Eli. It's like Eli. In Israeli. We don't say Eli, we say Ulai. We don't say Eli. Maze, Jonathan.
Eli.
Okay. How you doing?
There we go. What's up? What's up, boys?
That's not a good April Fool's song to start with Eli.
Well, I've been talking to nothing but Holocaust and Corona for the last 15 minutes, so you guys can keep with the.
Yeah, that's as a comedy act, that is an incredible opener. We should always request that in our writer. Please start with either the Holocaust or Corona to introduce us.
The crowd is primed.
It really,
Prime
it sets the tone.
I never understood that, because there's some idea, of course, you want a band, if you want the opening band or the opening act to get everybody ready, but isn't the other side of it, couldn't it also be true that if you want the opening act to be terrible and not funny, then anything you say, you're going to seem funny?
Maybe, I don't know. Ellie?
It's an interesting balance. You have to make sure they're like in a different domain. And I mean, this is what I hear. They're sort of in a different domain. They're smaller than, like, they're good, but I think in some places they want them to strategically be bad. There's also, I know there was a lot of rock acts that used to have this guy, Neil Hamburger, this like very extremely deadpan comedian open for them. So that's like, you can't be more opposite than a deadpan comedian and like a hard rock act.
Stephen Wright or something.
Yeah. Oh, but actually, Ellie, that reminds me, we did do a show. We did our live show I'm not going to name the city because it might, I don't want to
come up with a fake city.
Lashon Hara.
Macau.
Let's just say it was
Springfield.
It was in Florida. That's it. Okay. Florida. Anyways, we were about to go on, and the organizing body that invited us in sent someone up to introduce us and like prime the crowd. And so Ellie and I were like, side stage waiting for our cue. And it was literally just like, okay, he's priming them. This guy's good. He was on a good roll. He was like, we got a great show tonight. We got YidLife Crisis here all the way from Montreal. We're going to have some great laughs. But before we start, because these guys are doing sort of a Yiddish style comedy, I want to tell you just Dachau. my grandfather, and then it just went from there, right? Do you remember this, Ellie? And then he just did a whole story on Dachau.
Very well. However, what I'd like to point out is I think that was one of our best shows ever. And so maybe that's part of it.
Right.
Also, maybe a projector failing in the middle for about 10 minutes is another part of the recipe.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So
I don't
you
know.
never know.
Worse-
Funny things could happen. Even here, right now, live
Worse
on
than
Facebook
Dachau.
with you.
The projector is worse than Dachau.
That's the brand. Worse than that.
I mean, worse than mentioning Dachau. Obviously, I don't mean worse.
Yes.
Than, not worse than Dachau itself.
I was about to say, Jonathan, that's not very sensitive considering
It
your
was almost no, I wouldn't be inappropriate publicly.
that's
Yeah.
that not
Oh, wait, we're broadcasting everywhere in the world. Okay.
And I want to know, is your Expos is that? You're a big baseball fan? Opening day today?
It is indeed. Is it actually opening day?
Yes.
Really? And this is not an April Fool's joke?
It might be April 2nd in Canada, just because Canada.
Yeah, I know we have different rules. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's why I wore it. Sure.
I'm taking by the fact that you didn't know it's opening day. I'm going to take that as a not exactly yes on the super fan.
To be fair, no, I do watch games. I can't believe I'm saying this publicly. Blue Jays games.
What?
Whoa.
It's all we have. It's all we have.
LA is unhappy with that.
For those, by the way, for those watching who don't understand my reaction or why Ellie said that with such guilt, it's because the Blue Jays are the Toronto baseball team, and Toronto is like Montreal is to Toronto as Krakow is to Warsaw. Did I explain it right, Jonathan?
Montreal to Toronto. I'm very happy you did, and I'm very happy that you connected Krakow with Montreal.
Well, yes.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
You're right. A city of culture, a city of beauty,
Yes.
a city of
The
charm.
culture deserved.
Yeah. Right. And by the way, this will either work for or against us now, Ellie, but we should say we did actually, of course, perform in Krakow, come to Krakow to visit you a few years ago. And we've not yet been to Warsaw. So let's not piss off everybody in Warsaw, Ellie.
No, don't.
Also, I have some family rights, like my whole bloodline, all of this, Warsaw. I didn't even know Krakow was like an option. We were not Krakow bred Jews in my lineage.
You would have known. You could have retroactively had your family be from Krakow.
100%. I walked around Kazimierz. I was like, this is way cooler. Is there anything I can do? I'm going to go into the Jewish Genealogical Society. I'm going to break in the middle of the night and change the records.
I wonder if anyone's done that. Like they found out that it was so
No, that's a great episode.
So horrifying. That is good, right? You go and retroactively change your family. Oh my God, in the 18th century, this guy did what? No. We can't live with that because it's forever.
That's right.
I like that. I think there's a movie in there.
For sure. The Minsker that has to go and break in to turn it to Pinsk. And what he learns in the process changes him as a man.
I think that movie might be called Rochelle.
Rochelle. By the way, you mentioned Seinfeld. No Curb on the list?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Curb can be on the list.
Okay.
Curb.
I mean, I'm not offended.
I was thinking more like silly April Fool's funny as opposed to Curb, which is brilliant but like painful.
Fair enough. Brilliant but painful, the Eli Batalion story. I'm working on that book right now.
And what's the Jamie Elman story called? What's the subtitle?
Wait for he'll come up with something.
I'm working on that book right now, the Jamie Elman story.
Maybe painful but brilliant.
By the way, I don't know if it's a book or these could be good T-shirts. Painful but brilliant.
That reminds me, Ellie, we need merch. We'll talk about that later.
Yes. Did you see the Jewish Peloton thing that just came out?
No, what's that?
I just got a shout out to Mike Engels, who I don't know why he would be watching right now, but shout out to him.
He's not.
I just got this email in. It's like a faux kick. I don't know if it's faux. It's like Exodus, the Peloton Exodus edition. I'm going to send this.
Very good. So so when you pedal, are you sort of getting yourself out of Egypt or something? Is that?
I think what's happening is it goes at a very small velocity that's like allows you to get somewhere in 40 years.
40 years.
Or 400. Wait, was it 40 or 400? No, it's not 400.
40.
It's 400 years of slavery, 40
Oh my God.
getting to the.
I think it might
Okay.
have been 40.
This is the Jewish day school system of Montreal at work.
So
folks,
you
right
guys,
now.
so I wanted, because you're both from Montreal, at what age did you meet each other and under what circumstances?
Interesting. Let's say that our average age at that time was about 15. And the only visual that I have of Jamie at Bialik High School is an obscured visual because I only have portions of his face because the rest of his face was lock-lipped with his then girlfriend in the middle of the hallways of school. And so he was very intimidating and also literally unreachable because he was literally in a form of oral connection with someone else the entire time I knew him. We never spoke, partially because, and I don't blame him, there was no affiliation with me.
He was busy kissing somebody.
And he was busy. There was literally no way. I mean, he could have used his hands to communicate, but there was literally no way at that time. But then later, there was no connection from that point until Los Angeles, where I stopped by for a while, and we had a mutual friend. We'll call him Nehemiah because that's his Hebrew name. And Nehemiah and Jamie connected over there, and I connected with Nehemiah. Therefore, I connected with Jamie. Therefore, YidLife Crisis.
So just so I want to understand, so you're there, you're both in LA. Through Nehemiah, you meet, and you go, wait a minute, I remember 9 years ago or whatever it was, 14 years ago, I believe around the corner, I may have seen you kissing a girl on the 3rd floor outside the library.
Okay, fine. It's
all true, except the library was on the 2nd floor. Every other aspect of that was completely accurate.
Were you
verbatim.
there? No, he's selling himself a little bit short, but well, no, he was right about the part about me making out in high school. The other thing he didn't mention, which I appreciate, is that I'm older than him by a few years. So there was really no reason to pay him any attention. I mean, none at all. I mean, literally, if you know.
It would have been weird. I mean, it would have been very, like, I would not have supported that for his own.
Yeah, he wouldn't have known what to say to me. So anyways, but I went to see over the year. Here's what happens. And I'm sure this is probably universal. Benji Lovett maybe will confirm this for us later. But when Jewish comedians or performers are from a certain place, then their mothers send them articles about other Jewish performers from that place to compare them to say who's doing better.
It's an age-old tradition that actually is we're celebrating the 1700 years of Ashkenazic Jewry starting, I guess, in Germany. They're making that claim. And that was actually the year where a Jewish mother presented a clipping from a parchment about a peer reference to someone to indicate how the son was either worse or better than that peer.
Correctamundo.
So it was my mother. It had been moistened by tears that had fallen on the parchment.
Exactly. It's like, not only couldn't you have gotten an actual job, but here's somebody who has a similar job to you doing better and funnier, smarter things. So anyways, over the years, my mother sent me articles about Eli and Nehemiah, who had their own duo show, which was a hip hop comedy act called Sable and Batalion, and they released an album called, they went by the name the Grafenberg All-Stars, named for famed G-spot discoverer Ernest Grafenberg, a Yid.
Of course.
Okay, and they had this act, and I went to see them do a show in LA when they came here, because I was like, okay, let me see what all the hype is about. Mom, who's watching? Sorry, hi mom, if you're watching. Good morning. So anyways, and the show was great. And so after that, we started becoming friends, and I knew I wanted to work with him. And he had seen me do another web series, which I don't know if you put it on the Chappelle Seinfeld level, but you can watch our 5-episode web series called Crazy, Sexy, Awkward on YouTube. I don't know, you can YouTube search Crazy Sexy Awkward. It was a 5-part web series. Ellie actually was in LA when we shot it, and he helped out on set for a bit. So we started a bond there, realized we had a similar sense of humor, and ultimately realized that we were both very neurotic, anxious, and comedically compatible.
How did you get rid of the other guy? How'd you get rid of Sable?
he
Still here.
had been he was sick of both of us by then. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we are basically, what's the opposite of a disciple? Like an excommunicated disciple.
Right. There you
That's
go.
what we are. We're like the way Lucifer was to God, like in heaven, that he was. There was two of us. We were a duo that was excommunicated.
So Lucifer
right.
is
And
to
this is our
God, and
revenge.
Warsaw is to Krakow as.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay,
Monster.
how about like Mathau and Lemon? Okay, no, that's a little bit.
Are
caught.
to Klugman and Randall.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Both. No, I mean, here's the thing. Those, different duos do different things. And Ellie and I just sort of connected on a certain sense of humor. And it was ultimately Ellie's idea he said, let's just do something in Yiddish. And that was sort of set the whole train in motion. Like we didn't know, I doubt that he knew what he meant when he said, let's do something in Yiddish. But
what were you thinking, Ellie? What were you thinking? Was it the idea of Yiddish because you guys are really into Yiddish, or it was just, oh, let's do something so quintessentially, so almost Jewish, but not of this time, that it's just sort of how everything in the Jewish mentality, everything is kind of funny in Yiddish?
I think that was it. I'm honestly trying to put myself back in that mindset right now. It's funny because when we do our like more formal talks, we go into and talk about, I was the Yiddish valedictorian at Bialik High School.
More formal than this?
Believe me, I'm shocked, but yes, more formal than this. And I gave a speech at the synagogue for our graduation, and it was very well received. Like everyone was hysterical, and most of them had no idea what I was saying at all. And I was like, this is very, I don't know what this is here. I don't know what I'm dealing with on my hands here, but this language is some powerful stuff, certainly from a comedy perspective.
How does one get to be the Yiddish valedictorian? Did you have the highest grades in Yiddish class? Is that basically it?
As I say in the very formal talk, through a rigorous process of elimination. No one wanted to do it.
Who the hell would do that?
It's weird. By the way, I don't even know if I've shared this with Jamie. I was also the Yiddish valedictorian for JPPS in grade 6. It's literally no one would touch this thing. And I was like, fine.
That's like like homers and RBIs.
Leading
the league in both categories.
Oh yes,
right,
yes,
right.
I have both the valedictories under my belt. Yes.
Yeah, I think it was more like 5 years later. Everybody said, "Wait, who did it last time? Just give it to that guy. We don't. It's fine."
Right.
I received phone calls later. They were like, "Do you want to come back and do it again? We'll just we could age you down a little bit. We just need somebody to fill in and pinch hit this year."
Right. No, he did good, actually.
That's not true. But yeah, I don't know. We grew up, first of all, we had a lot of Yiddish around us in Montreal, and we've kind of seen how Montreal's kind of like a de facto Yiddish capital of the world at this point. There's interesting capital, I'd say New York for a few obvious reasons. South America, like in Argentina and Uruguay, actually claim to fame. I have some family that was involved in some of that Yiddishness, the Zuckerman family, but also, shtetl exports like us, a little bit LA, a bit Tel Aviv, maybe some London, but Montreal's definitely up there in terms of probably like a larger survivor population per capita in general. So that probably had something to do with it. But we had a few institutions, and one of them that we were exposed to was the Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater. Dora Wasserman Alva Sholm, but her daughter, Marina Wasserman, has been involved with the Volksbühne, which is the Yiddish theater in New York, although I guess maybe it's a national scope. Anyways, there's a lot of Yiddish around us, so we were kind of used to it, and we got this connection between the Yiddish language and performance. And I guess it's from that, there was just an intuition that like we could do something very original in that. And I think, some of the Yiddish theater I'd seen was like very old school in its approach, maybe, and thought it'd be interesting to do the Yiddish, but like in more modern context, Seinfeldian context, let's say. And so that was basically the impetus. And I think we're kind of still doing exactly that same thing.
And how did you guys come up with? Because I think that the way that you do it is really fascinating. I mean, sort of just the Yiddish aspect, but this idea of you sort of guys traveling around and doing these characters. And I'm going to ask you how close they are to your actual personalities, which is sort of interesting to me. But how did you come across? Like, what was the genesis of coming out? You had this idea that you want to do something in Yiddish. You're coming from this background of Yiddish, and how did that become, Jamie? How did that become like YidLife Crisis?
Well, you set us up for it perfectly, actually, because so yeah, we got this grant from the Jewish Community Foundation of Montreal. They said they were looking for people to do something artsy and Jewish. And one of the mandates of the grant was to try and reach out to the Jewish community across the city of Montreal and even beyond the community. And so Eli pitched me on this idea of let's do something in Yiddish. And we said, okay, well, what should that be? And then we said, well, it quickly turned into a conversation about Seinfeld and a theory that we both sort of felt that Seinfeld is actually Yiddish comedy. And that Seinfeld, comes from himself as a disciple of the great Jewish comedians who came before him, the Borscht Belt, the Catskills. You name checked a couple of these guys. Of course, the generation before him, the Mel Brooks and the Woody Allen and the Carl Reiner and all that. And then going back even further into real Yiddish comedy, vaudeville, Second Avenue, Yiddish theater. So there was this sense that we had from going out and seeing comedy, Second Avenue style Yiddish reviews at the Dora Wasserman Theater in Montreal that, okay, so Yiddish and comedy seem to go together, and the Seinfeldian style of comedy seemed to have a Yiddish cadence to us. And so we started to have this theory that, in fact, Seinfeld is just Yiddish comedy that they've put into English. So we said, okay, let's reverse engineer Seinfeld back into Yiddish. And what we'll do is we'll take basically 95% of the grant money they gave us and pocket it.
Right.
And then what we'll just do is quickly, overnight, whatever, doesn't matter, who cares? Well, quickly, I was so naive, Jonathan. Did I not see?
I don't even think you wanted us to do it in Yiddish. You're like, we could just babble.
Right.
They won't know.
Dub it. Have some old person who speaks Yiddish, native speaker, dub it later. Just do it on your iPhone 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
We're employing the elderly. It's beautiful.
Of course.
Yes, I swear to God, it's not even a joke. We said, let's just shoot it on our iPhones. We'll make up the Yiddish. Who's going to know what we're saying? No one who graduated from our high school can understand it anyway.
Well, you have the valedictorian. If he doesn't, right, there's nobody above. So you're saying
it's just him. It's just he'll be the only one. So okay,
right.
This sounds fun. But the thing is, as we started talking about doing it in Yiddish and doing Seinfeld in Yiddish, first of all, there is some sketches, by the way, out there. I think Jordan Kutzik from The Forward, I think it was him. And a couple other people who have dubbed some Seinfeld scenes, maybe even full episodes. No, I don't think full episodes, but some scenes into Yiddish on YouTube. So one, it wasn't even that original. Two, we knew nothing about Yiddish culturally, globally, whatever going into this. We just started talking about it and realizing that we did have things to say about Jewishness, as it turns out. We were having real conversations about what we would eventually dub the crisis, which is all we mean by that is, how to live Jewishly in the 21st century. It's just, we put a little bit of a funny spin on the title, but really it's the same question that Jews have been asking for thousands of years.
Yeah. So in some ways, it's interesting. You talk about Seinfeld a lot, and Seinfeld, if you look at this idea of Seinfeld's comedy, then he's sort of taking Jewish comedy and making it less Jewish. In other words, less on the surface, less Jewish. Suddenly Elaine and all the, she becomes Greek, everybody, George is Italian, which is, all of these things that are silly. Not only are the characters really obviously Jewish, but the actors playing all the characters are Jewish. So they some way make the world a little less apparently Jewish. And you, by doing it in Yiddish, almost makes everything more, it makes the world more Jewish, right? Just through the use of the Jewish language.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you're right. Seinfeld kind of hit it. I'm not sure how intentional that was.
It was intentional. I understand that they're like, listen, we can't just have every character. You can have it be pretty Jewishy, and he's Jewish, right, but you can't have every single character.
I like how we have
play on the Upper West Side.
I like how Jews impose Jew quotas on ourselves. So no, but look, and who knows, maybe that was a good thing for network television at that time. But yeah, we're very, very much leaning into the Jewish elements of it. The only thing I would say is in not all of our stuff, but in quite a bit of it, we also try to lean into multiculturalism, particularly in Montreal and other groups that are outside of Judaism, but that we're tangent to in Montreal, specifically, like Jamie was saying, the French Canadians.
The poutine episode.
The poutine episodes being one
famous poutine episode.
Fameux.
Well, I'll let Ellie tell the story, but that was the first episode we shot. We shot the whole first season, actually, 4 episodes. It sounds like a whole first season. It's 4 episodes. They're about 5 minutes each, but we shot them all in 2 days. And we shot them in order. So the first thing we shot, and that poutine episode called Breaking the Fast is the first episode of the series. And we shot it at this poutine restaurant in Montreal. It was the very first thing out of the gate that we did together. And we had this Seinfeld. So we were going to explore, you're right, we were going to lean into the Jewishness in a way that Seinfeld didn't, but which we felt was, right there under the surface as we were going to talk about Jewish issues. In a way, Seinfeld doesn't talk about Jewish issues, but the Jewish sensibility is there. So there's 2 things. There's the sensibility and then there's the content. So we were going to bring both the content and the sensibility. And how did that, and just again, I'm going to let Ellie tell this. Ellie, I swear I'm going to let you tell this. But the notice that they de-Jewified Seinfeld a bit, for a reason, because you can't have 4 Jewish characters on the Upper West Side talking about Zabars all day, and how, there's a reason why it's the most popular sitcom of all time, and that it was working for people in Poland and Romania and Africa and China for somehow. And so we discovered this in the first hour of shooting the show. How? Ellie, I'm giving you the good part.
I'll take you there. So little known to many. When we first shot the very first episode, we started and we shot the whole thing in English because that's how unconfident we were that this whole Yiddish experiment was going to work. So we were like, we just have to get something. We have to make sure we actually fulfill it. So we did it in English. Okay, it was all fine. And it was basically us with a small crew, one of which was the assistant cameraman who spoke only French, and the gang at La Banquise, which is the poutinerie, that also spoke only French. So whatever. Then we're like, okay,
maybe a few words of English, but definitely no Yiddish.
No Yiddish.
Definitely no Yiddish. That's for sure. That's a critical point. Then we go into the Yiddish. So 2 quick things. One, I think it was probably between 30 to 50% louder automatically, totally instinctually, without any mental effort put towards it. 2, Normand, the assistant camera guy, starts laughing, and so does everyone from La Banquise. We are very perplexed. We ask Normand, why is this funny to you? You don't understand anything that we're saying. And now he could have said, like, yeah, but you just sound funny, which would have been one answer. Fair enough. But he said, c'est Seinfeld, sir. That's Seinfeld, right? So it's both amazing that he could make the link between our noises, which have nothing to do with Seinfeld.
Right. What are you talking about?
But what's something about he was hearing a cadence, not any of the words, but the cadence and the approach was in his eyes and ears. That was Seinfeld. And that was like, yeah, there's something very fascinating again about this language. It's like, it's not the words. It's not the words that are doing this. There's an extra lingual component. It's the cadence, it's the hands, it's the way of delivering it. That's like somehow, and what's amazing is like, he's not like, oh, this is, like he said, it's like Seinfeld, which is an English language show. So it's very interesting.
It's fascinating. It makes you think, like, you think that if you were doing it, for example, if you were doing the same thing in German, which is so close to Yiddish, right? But with just a sort of different vibe and a different, as you say, cadence to it, it would have been completely different. Whereas if you look at it, if it were written, it wouldn't be that different. It wouldn't be that different. I mean, not in Hebrew characters, obviously, but just the idea of when you speak German, it's very German, and Yiddish is very Seinfeldy in the sense of whatever this means, it means something, right?
There's a lot to explore with that
aspect to it.
I mean, so look, as we've mentioned, we think we're going to Germany in October. We think for a live performance, but also trying to film some stuff too, and get down to the bottom of this 1700-year anniversary as well. And there are many questions around that, and I'm very curious about German Jewish relations and the history and the comedy component of how Yiddish is basically German, but German metalingualism has sucked the comedy out of these words, whereas our performativity around the Yiddish adds the comedy.
Yeah.
And it's like, by the way, I'm sure it's not as black and white as the way I'm describing it. I'm describing it in a very stereotypical way.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sure it's a lot more gray territory. I'm sure there is a German non-Jewish comedy history as well, and a performative history. I mean, looking to explore that.
If you would listen to two people speaking Yiddish and the same two people speaking, or two native speakers of Yiddish and of German, you would hear that one language definitely sounds more, more serious.
More drunk.
One is sort of a funnier, aspect to it. No question.
Yeah. The irony is the Yiddish probably sounds like more drunk German. But the irony is that the Germans are the only ones that are drunk as they're speaking the German, and yet they sound more sober. So it's a very weird topsy-turvy thing. But here's
we haven't gotten to Germany yet. Can you?
Don't jinx it.
I don't want to scare you off. But here, let me bring it home to Krakow. Here's my theory or speculation that I'm curious about. Were Jews up until the Pale Settlement and this whole massive German incubation period with Yiddish not that funny? But then when we moved to the Pale Settlement, that's when we got funny.
So Jews,
that's what I'm wondering.
Jews living in Germany until they kind of got kicked out and moved on past Germany. Were they funny while they were living in Germany? Did their natural Jewish funniness break the bounds of German oppressive, not funny society? It's a good question. You'll have. I think you guys, you guys come to Germany in October and then hopefully to Krakow. I think you should do a little bit of a trip around Germany. Just you guys, Yiddish, Germany. What could go wrong? No, I think it's going to be fascinating, really, to see you guys in that context with Yiddish.
Well, we think so too. We hope it happens. We're scheduled for October 3rd in Frankfurt, and we're trying to set up a few other gigs. And maybe do some shooting there. But you're reminding me of actually our, one of the craziest experiences we ever had, which actually was performing in Krakow.
Back to the crack.
Back in crack. Get the flag. Sorry. It's early.
If we do come back to perform, can we now promise that will be the song?
And we will have Angus Young will be here with you in shorts.
100%. No, we had fun. This is our, here you are.
Oh yeah.
Through
film
That's right. This is our film. I actually, this is as good a time as any to plug that movie, which is out there. So for those of you who don't,
you get extra credit. I'm sorry, you get extra credit for showing bagels or obvajanki on Pesach. Extra credit, Jamie.
Well, this is how we roll. This is the crisis.
We're pushing it. Pushing it.
So we went. We were there. When was this?
2015.
Oh my God, that's disgusting.
Are we aging ourselves? Are we dating ourselves?
Yes. Anyways, we had an incredible trip. We performed our live show. You brought us in. Here we are actually on your balcony.
In a synagogue you performed. No?
We performed at the high synagogue. This was right when we got to your office, actually.
Yeah.
Right
when like, you guys stink, you have to go on the balcony. And that was I literally came to the airport with that coffee. And you were like,
that's true. That's right. That's right.
We need you out immediately.
Here we go. There'd be any coffee in Krakow.
I remember having, I thought, good coffee. No, maybe it was.
I remember having great coffee in Kazimierz. There was a little budka place that I still dream of. And they had these awesome pastries. It was like a really small bar. This is what I found in Kazimierz, and I guess it's just in Europe in general. That like the bars and the cafes are basically the same place. Like you don't have this phenomenon.
100% the same place.
It's amazing. So you could like totally live there. So it's like you go in the morning, you're there with your laptop, you're having this incredible espresso and this incredible like Danish style thing. And then at night you're getting blitzed. It's amazing.
You go like Irish coffee in the middle of the day is the transition.
Got it. I think that's when I was working, so I wasn't there for that. But you know,
you're right. And hang on, I just remember we had another incredible coffee at it's called the Galicia Museum.
Yeah, Galicia Jewish Museum.
yes, they had, yeah.
Incredible coffee there. There's no way we weren't going to have good coffee there. We ate well too, actually. You took us, actually, here's a picture of us with the filmmaker, Paulina.
Oh, yeah.
Paulina directed the movie Narishkeit, which you can find on our YouTube channel, which is all about our trip to Krakow, bringing Yiddish comedy, Jewish comedy back to the crack. It's you can watch it for free, and Paulina did a great job with it. Paulina, if you're out there watching, shalom aleichem. And you guys treated us really well. We had a great time. Oh yeah, here's a picture. You can't see him that well. That's Cuba.
It was a fun trip.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
And by the way, here, this is the picture of us buying our Jews.
I still have my Jew.
Come on.
I meant to say
It hasn't worked yet, but
I keep them on my fridge. Okay, I still have them here. So it was an incredible time, and doing the show in the synagogue there was at the High Synagogue was like definitely one of the highlight shows for us, even after the many that we've done since then. That was really wild for us, really special.
the only thing that was wrong was that the projector didn't break during that one. So
that's true.
That
Not enough mention of
us.
Dacha. Although, if you look at this, what you have to say, this. So I don't know how well you could see it in this photo, but there were all these, there was this exhibit going on in the synagogue, remember? And it was like,
it's a little synagogue. It's like a 17th century synagogue. So beautiful and yeah.
Yeah, and anyways, it was powerful. What can we say? And then look, I even pulled this up. This is you presenting the film in Krakow.
That's at the JPC, yeah.
While we were watching it, here, do I have that? No, here's you screening it, and then there's us on.
That's very meta.
This is very meta. This is us watching you watching us when we premiered it. So
speaking of meta, that was the first time I think that I came in touch with Zoom. And we were like, what is this technology? We were early
adopters of Zoom at JCC. We were all over Zoom years ago.
Because it was like, this isn't cutting out at all. And this is smooth AF. What is
right.
this?
Oh, these guys aren't about Skype. This is a serious JCC with their Zoom.
It was impressive, yeah.
Zoom. As I'm sure said in Polish.
By the way, is Benji Love It here right now? Or he said he couldn't because the time was wrong this week.
Yeah, he always has some time excuse.
Okay, we're here, just to be clear, we're here because of how many times Benji was here and we were not here.
It's a Jewish quota thing. We just have to reduce the Benjiness a little bit.
We love him.
It's too Benji focused. It's Benji focused.
It was a little bit too Benji centric for us. Yeah, exactly.
Now, how much? But I have a question about you guys, because as you know, I'm a huge fan, and I've actually watched all your stuff. Everything you put out online, I've seen it. How much? And I think I probably know the answer, but Jamie, you're generally the sort of the wise ass character. Jaime, I should say, and Eli, you playing Laser, not Laser Wolf, which we're familiar with here in Krakow, but Laser, the sort of nebbier, and I'm sorry, I apologize, Laser, the sort of somewhat nebbier, more goody-goody, more observant character is always trying to, sort of as Jamie's trying to loosen you up and stuff. How much of that is your real personalities?
My new t-shirt, 100% neb. By the way, you said nebbier and you framed it in the relative, so that to me is a compliment.
Exactly. It's not that I'm not nebbish.
That was very nice.
Sure.
Well, it's interesting. So we can surprise people. We'll, let you in on something, which is, some people automatically think that I'm a lot more frum than Jamie. That is not the case. I can't say it's the opposite of that, but I think it's safe to say we're at similar levels of devotion. Well, it depends on what the devotion is too. But
similar levels of crisis is more like
similar levels of crisis. We are, as we've coined it, crisisian, and to that we are deeply devoted. Orthodox sect.
I mean, let's put it this way. Certain lines that we say are, could be spoken by either one of us for sure. That might seem like they're, character statements, but we have to push to the extremes here because it's sort of based on this Jewish concept of chevrusa, debating partnering, Talmudic debate partnering. So we push to the extremes, but we both have, I'd say, weird things that we do. Like we could say we're not believers, we're atheists. Like you were saying to your dad, we're not Baal Tshuva, we're not Shtisel, but yet I will not have a cheeseburger. I mean, I just won't do it. It's just, it's
certain things just seem wrong, right?
That's right. There's a line. In fact, it's the second to last line of the premiere episode. So for us, it was an important line where Eli says, sort of the penultimate line, really, where he says, there are just some things a Jew doesn't do, and that's it. It's not rational, I mean, and we touch on some of these things in the show too, like circumcision. Like even if you're a non-believer, right? Okay, you rolled your eyes because you know what we're talking about.
I like the episode. Yeah.
What would you do?
Yeah, no, there's certain things to me, there are definite, forgetting about how you've grown up or what you're doing or whatever, to me, there are like red lines. To me, circumcision, 100%.
It's definitely a red line.
Red line.
Oh, Jonathan, even as an atheist, a
100%.
culturalist, a secularist, someone who recognizes that the Torah was clearly written by a group of guys, not right? No.
Circumcision's the thing. You got to do it.
No, I mean, first of all, it's very visceral. So food is obviously, it's literally a visceral thing. Cutting, self-immolation, if that's the term, is obviously very visceral too. Perhaps
self-mutilation more than self-immolation would be
right. Yeah,
mutilation.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm aiming for that.
Luckily, Judaism we haven't gotten around to that one yet, but there's still time.
Good.
There is indeed a little sliver of time. So yeah, for circumcision, it's very interesting how deep that runs. But at the same time, tattooing, this is interesting, and I guess it's more interesting for our millennial culture where this is like a lot more popular. Right. But I don't know, Jamie, if you felt at all the tattoo faux pas-ness, like what's the atheistic Jewish irrational view on tattooing, and whether there's a Jewish component in the whole cemetery thing, and whatever it might mean. But it's interesting. I'm just, the whole point of the bris is basically a form of a ritual of sacrifice. But I think tattoos are also that same ritual of sacrifice. It's like paying to recognize something. So I just find it fun. Sorry, I'm taking this in a very bizarre direction, but
no, now you should go April Fool's, and then you have a huge tattoo of like my face on your chest.
Ellie, you're all
right, tattoo a kippah to my head.
Yes,
that was one of the lines. They're so progressive in their Judaism, they would rather tattoo a kippah to their head than wear one.
But by the way, I don't actually want to go there, but the crisis is alive and well, and we touch on it in different ways. Your question, are we really like them? We get the questions of the crisis from all over. We see it, so like this week, again, I don't want to go there, but I can't help it because it's on my mind. Is this the definition of anti-Semitism?
Right.
I don't know if this is being followed by the JCC in Krakow or
we follow everything very closely.
That's that's the impression I get. So there's this, shit, you're the source. So anyways, I don't know if you want to weigh in on this or if you have already officially weighed in, but there's like this massive, okay, no, what? Well, I'll just set it up for the viewers, which is just that there's a massive, basically international and now turned very academic debate between Jews about how to define anti-Semitism officially.
Right.
And it's become a crazy woke left-right battle. And it's... and
then we're told the term itself, anti-Semitism, is anti-Semitic.
That was anti-Semitic, Ellie.
Right.
You mumser.
The term as anti-Semitic is anti-Semitic.
Exactly. So it's so dangerous. Anyways, do you want to say anything about it, or is it? I just took us way off. There's no point.
No, I mean, these questions of it's really the question of anti-Semitism is all about Israel, isn't it? You know, that's these ideas that we've lived, you know, for thousands of years. We're looking toward a homeland, then suddenly we have our homeland back, and we don't understand exactly how we were so used to living in the minority that we don't understand how to deal with the fact that that country isn't the minority, that Jews are the majority, and we've set up 2,000 years in a different situation, and it's very difficult for us, and we don't understand all the prayers and the way we've set up our whole society was without this country, and suddenly it's there, and they themselves don't know how to behave in certain ways in terms of forming governments and certain internal issues that are problematic. And then we as Jews do we have to immediately be loyal to them? Are we loyal at any cost? Is loyalty if we're loyal at any cost, is that really loving the, you know, of course. These are the issues that it's not surprising that we have all these issues with Israel after 2,000 years. And this definition of anti-Semitism, my understanding, the only complicated aspect is the part of the Zionist aspect, really, right? Is anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism? Well, of course that's complicated. We built all our religion, all our culture on not having this place that suddenly we have.
Does it, I mean, I'm curious where the Krakow community is on this.
Krakow community, or Poland in general, it's interesting, not only the Jewish community, is very much not anti-Israel. So even when you have all boycotts and BDS and a lot of these things that we in the West have been dealing with for the last 15 years, let's say, are not very much on the radar here in Krakow. Right? So you don't really have a strong BDS movement. If we have Israelis performing here, there's no extra security and stuff. Poles generally, and the Jewish community being a subset of that, Poles generally are pretty pro-Israel. I think they identify with this country that's surrounded by enemies because Poland is historically surrounded by enemies and been conquered, and they like this little country that stands up for itself. So there's a sense of identification with Israel that leads the country. So because the country itself is not, you know, and the media, the mainstream media here and the normal, you know, newspapers and TV are not sort of vilifying Israel, then the Jewish community, I think, doesn't get as split because they're not absorbing all of that as much as you would be in the US and Canada and Western Europe.
I'm just curious, is Polish culture, does it lean more right on average? And do you think that's part of the pro-Israel stance in the same way that you might see that in American politics or Southern Baptist, religion?
It does, but even on the left, they're not as anti-Israel. You know what I mean? I think because even somebody on the left in Poland has an understanding that Poland has been shit on by its neighbors for hundreds of years, and this idea that they were a nation without a country. And there's this identification because Poland was off the map for 125 years, and we were off the map for 2000. So
that's very interesting.
That transcends the politics a little bit.
And I'm just wondering, like, is the economic relationship also part of a liking of Israel, or like not really?
The average person thinks too much about that. I mean, people visit and go back and forth now. There's a lot of flights when there are flights, but, you know, normal non-corona world. But I think that the average person or average student is not looking at, you know, whether they're selling missiles or, you know, avionics to Poland or something like that. I think they just don't have this negative idea of Israel. Also, there's a historic association of the Jews being, you know, scholarly and merchants and these sort of somewhat nebby, you know, people that suddenly they don't change.
Nebby rock stars.
Nebby, exactly. That suddenly they go from Poland after the 1,000 years in Poland and become bloodthirsty maniacs because they changed address to move to the Middle East. It doesn't make sense exactly for them, right? They know the Jews because the Jews lived here among them for such a long time. So some of the stereotypes that get applied to Israelis don't always.
They're like, guys, you're getting the stereotypes all wrong.
Right. Well, then
they're like this, not like that.
Then the Israelis come here, and then they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. We do get it. We But guys, as we start to go to the end, I have a few questions for you that I have to ask. One, as I always ask, Latka. Are you guys Latka or Hamantash?
Latka, hands down. I'm sorry. I mean, Latka.
Laser.
I'm gonna go with Latka. Even naked Latka. I don't even need condiments on it.
Woof, naked Latka. He says, keep it clean. This isn't one of your YouTube shows. Anyway, 3 favorite films.
Oy vey.
You can give me 3 between the two of you. 1.5 each.
1.5 each.
Okay, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay,
Oh,
are we allowed to cite anything from Woody Allen anymore? I don't even know.
at your own risk, and no movies that. And Jamie, don't be all Hollywood on us and name any movies that you've been in.
Damn it, that was my next 5 movies. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I say Spaceballs, which makes an appearance in
Spaceballs.
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, Spaceballs, and I'm going to need one more.
Okay. I mean, between us, we've never discussed this. We haven't coordinated on this.
Mind meld. Do a YidLife mind meld to come up with one.
Okay, hang on. Really? That's what you were gonna say? Okay. He was thinking of the Dybbuk, 1929. I don't know.
Wow.
It's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Deep, very deep, Ellie. And I've got to ask you, because it's you guys on, 3 favorite Yiddish words or terms.
Oh, okay. There's a bunch we could go. I would say actually this week I have to say I'm watching Shtisel.
I just finished last night.
Okay, so I'm like halfway through, so don't say anything. But I'm loving.
Not a word.
Okay, so the one of the maybe the single most spoken word on the show is shkoyach.
Shkoyach is absolutely.
And I've started using it every day.
Because
the genius is
who knew you could use it like that?
It's incredible because if you watch and I mean I watch the show like a psychopath because I will rewind, switch from English subtitles to Hebrew subtitles, try and understand what the hell they're saying because it's a different kind of Yiddish, this Hasidic, Mea Sharim style Yiddish. They use expressions I don't know, but Shekoyach, for those of you who don't know, it's from the Hebrew Yasher Koach, which means may you have strength, or from strength to strength kind of thing. Right. And they combine the 2 Hebrew words Yasher Koach into one word Shkoyach. And they translate it on screen in Shtisel as anything. It means anything you need it to mean.
That's
hello, goodbye, please, thank you.
Right.
Leave me alone. I love you. It's amazing.
Someone hands him a glass of orange juice and he goes shkoyach, and it's the perfect reaction.
Everything. He says he wants to. He met a girl he just met yesterday. He wants to marry her. Shkoyach. It doesn't matter. It just means everything. So I would say that's my definite Yiddish word of the week.
I'm with you on shkoyach.
Okay.
I'm going to go with verblunget, which is basically like lost and confused. With also, I feel like we were talking about German versus maybe more Slavic Yiddish. I think that's more on the Slavic side. The Slavic words tend to be the better Yiddish words, I find. There's some good German stuff, but the Slavic stuff is good. Verblunget.
Paskudniak.
Paskudniak is fantastic.
That's like Polish. That's very Polish. You have paskudny. I like nebuch. Nebuch
also is one of those Yiddish words
for a lot of things. It's like the opposite of shkoyach.
Exactly. So there's a lot of great words in Yiddish that could be used for. You don't have to know that many words in Yiddish to be able to get by a little bit. We've proven.
I think that should be on your VHS boxes. You have plenty of room
on the box.
You don't have to know a lot of words.
100%.
Or if we could do it, so can you.
Ellie, Jamie, thank you guys so much. Always fun.
Thank you for having us.
Namaste.
Sponsored by Stripe.
Lightly salted, the Jamie Elman story.
There it is.
For the unleavened experience of a lifetime.
That's right. What was that? Billy Crystal.
Billy Crystal doing Joe Franklin on Saturday Night Live.
So good. Straight. No, shkoyach. Thanks for having us.
Moedim l'simcha, guys, and see you in practice.
See you back.
Can't wait to see you again. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Always good to talk.
Bye.